The following directors are present. Jeff Hauk, Justin Fosha, Mark Volt. I just got the live screen thing. Myself and Craig Healy. So we have a quorum. I don't need to remind everyone to be careful about speaking. Carl is not going to be able to make it, but I anticipated he would call in by the phone and it's difficult for him to hear. But we don't need to go over that. Second, just a point, let's try to raise our hands or wave at me if you want to speak, or raise your hand on Zoom, and we'll try not to talk over each other. And this is sort of an alphabet soup sort of industry. So let's try to be clear when we use acronyms if we could. We might say RUS. Let's preface that by saying Rural Utility Service for the first time, RUS, so that those in the public who watch or newcomers, I mean, I think many of us know what RUS is, but we have a lot of acronyms. And just for clarity, let's try to introduce what they are in a conversation before we plunge in. Thank you very much. And again, if you have issues, text me or use the chat or reach out to Mark. And are we ready for our public comment period? Should we let Mark?
We are. So Joe, if you will let in Chris and Elizabeth. We'll wait for Chris to connect to audio. There he is. Okay. For public comment today, we have Elizabeth Bauer, West Grand School District Superintendent of Schools, with us, and I will turn it over to her. We have an action item under emergency business that we will take up related to, I think, what she's going to speak to us about. So, Liz, it's up to you.
Great. Thank you all for your time, and thank you, Chris, for listening to me and helping me come up with some ideas. But West Grand School District is looking at replacing our existing bulbs, the light fixtures across the district, and moving them to LED ones, which is, a pretty big task for a small school like us. But we wanted to start with our outside lights, because our outside lit fixtures, because that also ties into safety. And so we have gotten a quote for what it would take to replace our 31 bulbs that are our outside light fixtures from Conserve a Watt. And it comes to $5,000 about. And so we are reaching out to the education fund at Mountain Parks Electric to partner with us, and are asking for funding for that purchase.
So board members, do you have any questions? The total is $5,114.69. Tri-State will give us a rebate for a portion of that we can claim, which is about $1,700. So the net to the education fund is about $3,400. And we can talk, you can have the discussion when we talk about this under emergency business, but if you have any questions for Liz, don't necessarily want to subject her to having to sit through the board meeting until we get to that particular portion of the agenda.
Justin, do you have a question?
No, but I could have one. Has West Grand School District participated in any of the LED rebate programs that we've done in the past, or that we have currently going? Like Young Life, I saw just did one this last billing cycle.
Not that I'm aware of. And one of the caveat I want to just make sure, and as a new superintendent, I'm quickly trying to learn a lot of new things, and so not that I'm aware of to this point. I know that we did have Snyder Electric came in and gave us a big quote about what it'd take to do the entire district inside and outside. But that's just not feasible for us financially right now. But we have not taken part of the rebates that I'm aware of.
And Chris, do you know if the school district has participated in any of our rebates?
No, they haven't, not to my knowledge.
Not that I know of either, Mark.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Superintendent Bauer. I think we'll discuss this in emergency business and have an answer back to you.
I really appreciate your time and discussion. Have a good day.
You too.
And Chris, you can stay on if you'd like, but the discussion of that item is not for quite a while, so you'll be on for, I'm guessing, at least a couple hours.
Okay, maybe just give me a call when that comes up and I can hop back on.
I will.
Okay, thanks.
All right, let's move on to the minutes. Has everyone read the minutes? Are there any corrections to the minutes? Anyone have any corrections?
Liz, I don't have any corrections, but I'd move that we accept the June 9 minutes.
Great. Can I have a second? Craig? Motion's been made to approve the June 9th, 2022 minutes of a Mountain Parks regular board meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Let's move on to the attorney report.
So Levi, I assume, has sent you the normal report and invoice. I don't have anything to add to that. Are there any questions?
All right, seeing none, let's move on to the managers and safety report. Or maybe, yeah, just.
We'll do the managers and then we'll do safety. But Community Solar, after the last meeting, we had a call with Cloudbreak on June 17th to discuss with them the ALJ's decision in the reserved issues, one of which obviously affected Board Policy 119. And because we wanted to be transparent with them to let them know that there's a possibility the project would not move forward. They are now aware, they're comfortable with the situation as it currently is. They've continued to work on the two prospective sites to see if they can get a lease. And I told them that as information came up that we would keep them up to date. We received the draft purchase power agreement, or PPA, and we are awaiting the final project location as well as the resolution of the issue that the ALJ, administrative law judge, brought up. And the parties to the docket have filed their reply briefs. Tri-State, our power supplier, as well as the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC trial staff, have filed their briefs explaining why the ALJ's initial decision was in error as it relates to Board Policy 119. The trial staff and Tri-State had similar arguments, but I think the trial staff laid it out more concisely. They had 2 points. One, that the initial decision incorrectly based its decision on a narrowly tailored view that demand is the only factor to consider when analyzing Board Policy 119. They suggested that undue discrimination standard considers the totality of circumstances, which include the nature of the cooperative model. They also talked about the customer interest and not the owner interest is considered when assessing possible undue discrimination among member owners of a cooperative. And third, that the participation and cost matter when considering undue discrimination. And I think that the ALJ did take participation and cost into account, but I believe that he did not address the issues that the staff had related to that. The second issue for them was that the board policy 119 is not unduly discriminatory against larger member owners. And they believe that the initial decision implied that there had to be a one-to-one relationship between benefit and cost. And they pointed out that the commission precedent does not suggest that that is in fact the case. And then second, he based part of his decision related to board policy 119 on a case of the Illinois Commerce Commission, a decision that was made by them. And the staff believe that the findings that he came up with are contrary to the holdings in that decision, because that decision was in fact overturned by the Seventh Circuit. And basically the commission had held that all utilities in PJM, and that is one of the power organizations back east, that they would have to contribute on a pro rata basis. That is, their rate should be raised by a uniform amount sufficient to defray the facilities cost. So it was a similar issue, but not the same issue. And the Seventh Circuit overturned that decision because they disagreed with that. Where we are at is Tri-State is going to provide an update on things related to board policy 119 at the CEO meeting next week. And I will provide an update to the board after that CEO meeting. I know that Carl attended the board meeting I believe, last week. And I thought that they may have brought up something in there. It was not part of the board notes. So I don't know if they actually did in fact discuss it. So with that, I will pause to see if anybody has any questions related to community solar or board policy 119. Seeing none, we will move on to the FERC contract termination payment docket. As reported last month, the hearing has been completed. The parties went through a process to make corrections to the transcript. So everybody basically went through the transcripts, identified things that they believed were in error, and those have been corrected and issued by FERC. The parties have filed their initial and reply briefs, and the oral arguments are currently scheduled for July 26th, unless they are waived by all parties. And the parties have until July 15th to either request or waive oral arguments. So we should know by Friday, tomorrow, whether or not there will be oral arguments on the 26th. I don't think that anybody could say anything that hasn't already been said in the numerous rounds of briefings or the trial, but that doesn't mean that somebody is not going to request an opportunity to have oral arguments related to it. The parties have been notified by FERC that it will be either an in-person hearing or a virtual hearing. And that needs to be part of their request for oral arguments as to which they prefer. The commission will provide an in-person, well, if it's an in-person hearing, they'll provide a hybrid element for non-participants to watch it remotely. So if Mountain Parks wants to watch it, but we are not going to participate and say anything in the hearing, there will be a component for that. So I will pause for a moment to see if anybody has any questions on the contract termination payment, or which is basically the full buyout of Tri-State for Mountain Parks. Seeing none, we will move on to partial requirements. On July 12th, the settlement ALJ or administrative law judge filed a report of contested settlement in the docket. As you recall, a settlement was filed by a number of the parties, 7 if you include Tri-State, and United opposed the settlement and provided a number of issues why they believed that it should not be approved. I emailed a copy of that report to board members. I believe it's 43 pages or so. The pertinent section I mean, if you want to read all 43 pages, feel free. It's riveting. But the pertinent section is in the discussion section, which begins on page 41. And in the email, I highlighted a number of issues that the ALJ brought up, and they are in paragraphs 91 through 94. And basically, she went through and indicated that she's not able to certify a contested settlement. And as such, she did not do that. So she created the report, sent it to the commission. The settling parties, which are the Tri-State and the 6 co-ops, Mountain Parks being one, and we did not participate in this part, but the settling parties encouraged the ALJ to certify the settlement as uncontested because they argue that United did not raise genuine issues of fact. She notes that they did not provide any commission decision that would suggest that allows her to approach, basically to take an approach. She also believes that they did not explain why they believe that they were not issues of fact, and as such, she said that she would not certify the settlement. Tri-State and the settling members also suggested that you could sever the United issues and then just settle or approve the settlement without those issues. The problem with that, as I see it, is that some of them are integral to the settlement, and I don't think you could sever them and still have a settlement. She declined to certify it based on that either. And so she sent the report to the commission. It is now in the commission's hand in order to make a decision. They have, as we discussed previously, the ability to accept, reject, or modify the settlement. I would remind the board that there is a section within the settlement that says if it is modified, that the settlement goes away. So depending on the modification, whether or not Tri-State and the settling parties would still agree to the settlement, that would have to be a discussion. And there is no specific timeline for the commission to make a decision on whether or not they will accept the settlement, modify it, or they could, in fact, create a hearing and have it go to hearing. But I would expect that we have some type of order within 90 days from the commission, but they have somewhat free rein to determine when they will give a decision. So I will pause on partial requirements to see if there are any questions from any board members. Seeing none, I will move on to an update on the fiber. Keller Heckman, you may recall, are our fiber attorneys. They finished the draft agreement for our review and potential modification. And this is the agreement that we would use to allow third parties to access the backbone and potentially provide fiber to the home. I and Levi reviewed the agreement, and after a discussion between Levi and myself, had a few issues that I'm not necessarily concerned about whether or not they need to be in the agreement, but I want to make sure that we understand what they believe it means, so that we're all on the same page. And so we have scheduled a meeting with Keller Heckman on July 21st to discuss the agreement. They are not substantive issues that I would think that it would take significant time if we decide we want to do something different for them to revise the agreement. So the expectation is that we'll have a final draft to provide to Connexon by the end of July. We did have a call yesterday with Connexon. It's a bi-weekly call that we have, and I let them know that we have an agreement that we expect to have to them. And if there are specific questions from board members on what is included within the draft, I would suggest that we take those up in executive session, because they are potentially proprietary and they may change based on concerns that have been raised. So I will pause to see if anybody has any general questions related to that agreement. We would also tell the board that we'll provide it to the other entity that we have talked about last week or at the last board meeting, because we did have a follow-on conversation with them. They still have interest in participating, and they indicated that they would look at the agreement to see if that changed their desire to participate in doing something fiber to the home. Seeing nothing, I will move on to something that is part of our strategic plan, and it is to gauge customer satisfaction. As the board is aware, we do quarterly surveys of our members, and we have seen increased participation in those quarterly surveys based on the fact that they're now available through Smart Hub, and so more people are actually participating in the survey. However, it doesn't necessarily give us actionable data always related to how satisfied members are. We were contacted by NRECA Touchstone and asked if we would want to participate in the national survey that they do that uses ASCI. And Liz, I have no idea what that is. Rob, do you know what ASCI stands for?
Yeah, American Customer Satisfaction Index, I believe.
Okay, there you go. We had some follow-up conversations with them, and I have some concerns. The survey consists of 4 questions. They are the same 4 questions that are asked of all entities and their customers. They go across all industries, not just electric co-ops. So any kind of industry that they will do a survey for, they ask these same 4 questions. The questions are extremely general in nature. One example is, how satisfied are you with mountain parks? Now, what that will do is give us a number, but what it doesn't do is provide any information as to why they are satisfied or why they are not satisfied, and give us any ability to then go and make a change. If we get something back and it says that 60% of our members are not satisfied, we don't know why, and it makes it difficult for us to try and make any changes. That said, the survey would be 250 respondents in 2 possible formats. You can do it all online, or you can do half online and half by phone. And it is conducted for 3 consecutive years to provide trends. Basin contributes about $1,050 to help subsidize the cost of the survey. And the survey, you are only charged for years 1 and 2. For some reason, they do year 3 for free, and I'm not quite sure why. But depending on the option that you select, that would mean if you do the full online response survey, it costs about $1,150 a year. If we do the split survey, so the phone and online, it's $2,300 a year. And that is after we take out the Basin contribution. Based on my concerns, I asked Rob to investigate other survey options that we might be able to do that would allow us to customize the survey questions. He did some research, and what we're looking for in customizing the question is to be able to elicit information from the members that take part in the survey that provides actionable data. He was able to find an independent company that is Inside Information, is the name of the company, and they happen to be the company that did the tri-state member load survey, and that we provided the copies to the board of. And I think the board would agree that now our survey would not be quite as comprehensive, but the board would agree that there was a lot of information in there that provided us with a way that we could actually do some of the things that we need to do, understand why members felt the way that they did, and then tailor programs that we were going to do to try and address member concerns, or provide opportunities for members for things that they said that they would like to do. This survey, if we were to do it, would allow mountain parks to design 10 questions. The survey can be designed to provide questions that, based on the member's response, it potentially asks them different questions. So we could have the first question be, is your mountain park service your primary residence or a second home? And based on those responses, then we could potentially tailor questions to find out, or at least we could ask maybe even the same question, but we would know based on that respondent whether they didn't like something because they're only up here a short period of time in their second home, or if they didn't like it because they're here all the time as a mountain parks customer. Now, I know this is not going to shock the board, but the cost is slightly higher if you do something that is tailored to us and provides us with more detailed information. This survey would be conducted online. It would include 300 members, and the annual cost would be $7,900. So wanted to get the board's perspective on, one, whether or not you want to do a survey, and two, whether or not which of the two formats you might want to do in the survey. And because of the cost and the budget as it's currently constructed, this would be something that we would do in 2023 if the board wanted to do it. So with that, I will stop talking and let the board ask questions or provide their opinions on surveys.
Are there some questions about surveys and customer feedback for Mark?
Or which of the surveys? Do we want to do the less expensive or the more expensive one?
Now, what would you like to see in the budget? Jeff, you look like you're going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds like maybe Mark's leaning towards the private company to maybe get, you know, well, I shouldn't say the answers we're looking for, but at least to get it tailored to mountain parks a little better. So I would defer to staff if we want to go that route, to, you know, if that's what they feel is best. I don't know. I'm kind of happy with, I mean, our survey as well. So I don't know, you know, it's a lot of money, but we're
Rob?
looking at something in particular, you know.
Rob?
Hey, Mark, did you want to mention, you know, ideally to get the full value out of a survey, you kind of want to ask the same questions in multiple years. That way, if you've made any business changes, presumably you can look at the difference in the survey numbers and attribute, you know, increases or decreases based on changes that you've made.
What Rob said. Now,
So,
I will also say that there are other Colorado co-ops that do participate in the survey that is the NRACA touchdown one, and they get a score and they will report that score, and the score typically does not move one way or the other, and but they have a score to report that says that, you know, people like us or they don't.
Justin, Mark, go ahead.
What is wrong with the way, Rob, the way we're doing the survey right now? Are we not satisfied with how the questions that Rob asked, and through that format, are we not getting participation? Why are we considering going some of the way than what Rob's doing already? It seems like it's really tailored to Mountain Parks Electric. That's my question.
Well, and I would say that we are satisfied with the responses that we get. I think we sometimes get the same people at saying the same thing month after, you know, quarter after quarter, but it does provide a lot of good information. People ask questions. It was just that we have had over the last couple of years discussions with the board, and the board has said, is there not something that we could do that would provide us with an independent assessment of what we do? And so that's when we were contacted by NRACA and Touchstone. That's why we brought it up. And we figured that we would see if the board's happy with what we're doing, we can continue doing that. As I said, we're starting to see greater participation. And, you know, every quarter we have the similar numbers to what they would do on an annual basis in surveying our members. So. Craig?
Craig, go ahead.
You're muted, Craig.
Okay, there we go. What if we were, the $7,900, isn't an outrageous fee to spend. What if we were to do something like we continued with our in-house survey and also did this additional new survey? We'd kind of double up for the first year, then see what we like for next year. That might be an option if it's not too cumbersome for staff.
No, and that would be our recommendation is we will continue to do the quarterly survey because it's an easy way for our members to connect with us. And sometimes they are asking us questions and saying, I wish you would do this. And we know who they are. So we're typically able to get back to them and discuss their issue with them. So we would suggest that if we're going to do the independent third-party survey, that we do both for at least the year. And as Rob mentioned, that typically companies are going to do this more than 1 year so that they can see if there's a trend either up or down. And it also assists with if for instance, if we decided to split and become total time of use, like some co-ops in Colorado have done, we would, I'm guessing, see significant feedback from our members through both of our surveys that they either liked it or didn't.
Yeah, it seems like it, we need a survey to split out because everybody loves Mountain Parks' reliability and their community support. Most people dislike the monthly fee, and it'd be nice to have a survey that could split those issues out a little narrower.
Good point. Justin, do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, whatever staff would recommend, I think is fine, but it's, we've done different surveys. I can't remember I know the broadband went through a couple of years ago. We did a survey on that and kind of got expected results that were in line with more simple ones that Rob had run, I believe. I don't know. I just feel like we're gonna, no matter how detailed oriented you make it, you're either gonna get folks that don't want to completely participate in it, or we're gonna get the same folks that are not happy with our service availability fee and things like that. But
well, and Justin, the independent company, we give them a list of our members, and then they do a random selection to get to a statistically valid survey, and it is plus or minus 5%, so it's about a 95% accuracy. So I understand what you're saying, and I think for our quarterly survey, we will continue to get. I mean, we have people that say, I wish you would do this, and then a large number that say, I love you, that don't change anything. Service availability is always in there. We have some people that say the cost of everything is going up. You need to stop raising your rates. We have not raised rates for quite a few years, and that was actually one of the articles that I wrote in the Colorado Country Life. So you're right that some people are going to keep saying the same things in our survey, but I think we do get some good things for us to follow up on, and actually for us to write articles to and provide education to members through our survey that we do internally.
Are you done, Justin? Oh, go ahead, Justin.
no, just it seems like a lot of the folks that are pretty well educated on answering the survey are second homeowners in some capacity, because they are receiving electric service in another state through Excel in Denver. Some of those, maybe we can pinpoint a few more of those type folks through the survey, or folks that have recently moved here. Folks like myself, beyond being somewhat educated in electric co-ops and things, this is where I've always received electricity. So, I was an Excel customer in Denver, but beyond that, we're patting our own backs a little bit with the folks that always live here, and this is what they know.
Good point. Just a quick question, Rob. Traditionally over the last number of years, we've used that, maybe a different touchstone, consumer satisfaction index score, sort of to benchmark us. Am I right in that?
Yes.
Do stuff. Go ahead.
So some years ago, when they did their national survey, Touchstone Energy, including, I think the ACSI was part of that, the 4 questions. They had not enough electric co-ops participating in the survey in the Rocky Mountain region, and they offered to us to do a full-blown survey at no cost, including the ACSI, and we did participate in that. So we got a lot of different questions, including the ACSI score when we did that. But that was at no cost to us.
Okay. Yeah, I knew that I'd seen numbers referred to as far as member satisfaction numbers and how we compared to other industries. So I thought we'd done that, but I think my perspective is we should include this in the budget for 2023. We need to benchmark how we're doing with our members and do it in a way that's representative versus, I think the survey questions online that people get through their Smart Hub bills certainly inform us, and Justin's point's well taken on that. How do we engage people who aren't the regulars, who have had different experiences across the other service providers? But yeah, I think let's go ahead and follow staff recommendation. Jeff?
Liz, and I would say too, I mean, if we're gonna do this, and we're gonna spend the money on this, let's be in it for 3 years. Like, I mean, Rob suggested that typically it's done over a 3-year period. So, I mean, if we just do it 1 year, I mean, are we gonna get the results, or I mean, what, so I think we need to prepare to have it, for the long haul, the 3 years. We're gonna budget for it.
Yeah, I agree, but who knows what the boards will look like in the future. So we can say we're doing it with the intention, but
yeah, no, exactly.
It's an annual thing. So, but I think hopefully boards will look at the commitment to it and decide it's worthwhile. Mark, do you want any, this isn't an action item, so why don't you go ahead?
Okay, we will move forward with that, and we will also talk to them to see if they maybe will give us a slightly better price if we commit to it like 3 years. Yeah, we'll move forward, and we will keep the board informed as we move forward on it. Moving on to the Winter Park land on June 13th, Mark Volt and I got to go and trudge across the countryside and through over the trees and through the leaves and all kinds of fun stuff and climb on rocks. And he sent out an email yesterday with his take or conclusion on that. I would suggest that if the board members want to discuss it or ask specific questions about how he reached his conclusion, that we do that in executive session. But if there are any specific questions as to how we did it or what he did, I think he could probably address those, but it might just be easier to do it all at the same time in executive session. Okay, moving on. I'm sorry that Kristen isn't here because the next section is to respond to some of the questions that she had last month regarding ballots and voting. I will excerpt this from my report and send it to her and to Carl so that they do have it. One of the questions that she asked is, was there a way on Smart Hub for an organization to see their voting member? And the answer is currently no. It's not something that we can do. It's something that we can work with. There is a new version of Smart Hub coming out that is more user-friendly. I don't believe it has that ability either. Her second question was, is there a way on Smart Hub for an individual to see who the joint members are on their account. And there is, you go to the bill print and it will bring up your bill and you can see who the joint members are that we have listed as your joint members on your account. The third question, what is the process for an organization or individual to change their voting member and or delete a joint member? There is a business and residential voter designee form that we have, and the member can complete the form to change their voting member. Typically, you require the current voting member to authorize the change to it or to provide documentation. So for instance, if it is the county commission or for a board that represents a homeowners association, the current voting member might not be there. And in one case, we actually noted that the individual was deceased. So not likely that they're going to sign the form. So we have that as a way for members to change. What we are going to work on is in the answer to the fourth question, is there a way to notify members who their voting member is? And we are going to work with the systems that we have to create a process through Messenger, which would send out a message to members, and it would be sent to all members, not just the members in a particular voting district that were voting, to remind them what their voting district is and who their voting member is. Now, it will not give them the ability to change their voting member online, but they will at least know who it is. And then they can go in and fill out the form to change that if they would like to. So with that, I will stop and see if there are any questions related to Kristen's questions or the responses from staff.
Thanks, Mark, for such a detailed response to this. And I think the messenger thing is a great idea. It just will remind people that they're part of a co-op and they have a say in it.
And I would love to take credit for this, but all I did was put it into my report. Stacy and Amanda Rosenberg actually did all the work on it, and they gave me the information and just made me look good. So moving on, fifth quarter, if you recall last year, we did provide something for the schools for fifth quarter, but we didn't hold the events here at Mountain Parks because of COVID concerns. We are working to find a way to host the fifth quarter for this year. Currently, the plan is to host after the first 3 home games, which would be August 26th, September 9th, and September 30th. Hoping the weather cooperates, what we would do is we would host the events in our parking lot by the Fleet Garage. We would open the doors and have access to the garage where we would most likely have the food that we would serve. We're attempting to find a solution for the remaining 2 home games, which are October 14th and October 28th. But we can't be sure of the weather at that time. And we looked last year at a number of options and, doing something at the school, doing something at the soccer dome. And none of those options worked because they don't want us to have food inside of their facility. And that somewhat makes it not work the way that it's supposed to, because you're supposed to be able in the colder weather, be inside. And if you get food and then have to go to outside in the cold to eat it, I'm guessing that it's not going to do what we had anticipated that we wanted it. So we'll stop for a moment to see if anybody has any question on fifth quarter. The other thing I will mention is that as we have done in the past and plan to do last year, we are reaching out to our vendors as well as some of the organizations that we support to have them provide volunteers to assist with this. So currently, Asplund is going to help us with one of them. Mountain Family Center, they had agreed to do it last year, so I assume they will do it this year. We have not gotten a response from them. And Adam has reached out to one of our other vendors and is seeing if they would provide. It's typically 1 or 2 or 3 people, and it's to serve food. We will deal with preparation and all the other stuff. It's just they need to be there. We do advertise and say that they are a co-sponsor of the event. And so they get some advertising out of it and get an opportunity to interact with the members. And from the Mountain Family Center's perspective, that's something that they really do enjoy and appreciate. So I will pause to see if anybody has any question about fifth quarter. Seeing none, move on to our next event where we're going to provide food. We will be hosting a luncheon for Stacy on August the 2nd. More details will be sent out to board members as we get them finalized. We will, of course, it is open to board members. We would love to have you attend if you can. It will be held in the Fleet Garage with the doors open. So it will give us plenty of space to make sure that we can mingle, but mingle at a distance. One of the reasons, obviously, that we are doing our meeting online this month is we have had a number of employees test positive. So we want to make sure that we are able to do things in a safe way. Last item that I have to report on, but then I'm going to actually have one other thing. So I guess technically not the last one. The electric bike event. Our event for the electric outdoor equipment, we gave away an electric bike. It was the hit of the event. About 40 of our members took it for a test drive around the parking lot. Two Pines happened to be there, a local sporting goods company, if you don't know. And they said, if you would want to do an electric bike event, we would be willing to provide the bikes for you to do that. We thought that was a great idea. So on July 27th, we will host the electric bike test drive event for members. The event will be held from 11 to 1 at the River Run Park. It's the dog park that's over at River Run. As I mentioned, Two Pines will provide the bikes. We believe that we'll have 2 to 3 bikes for people to go and test drive. Members will have a chance to win gift cards to Two Pines. We don't have the exact denominations yet at this point because we are working with them. And Rob stopped by yesterday, but the person who could say what they would be wasn't there, so he's going back today. And we will, as we did with the other event, provide lunch, sandwich, chips, cookie, and a bottle of water. And at least the last one, because we have such a nice manicured lawn here, people sat on the lawn, ate their lunch, and had a great opportunity to have discussions with members. We will be advertising the event on our website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those things that Rob loves to do. And then we will put an ad in the Sky High as well to let people know, because what we found is that there were a number of people that did come because of the Sky High ad, and then others because of our website or social media. So any questions on that event? And would invite you all to come and see how much fun it is to ride an electric bike. Okay, moving on to the last thing. This is just for information purposes for the board. I was contacted by the University of Colorado Leeds School of Business Customer Experience, it's a mouthful, about an opening that they have on their program advisory committee. The committee meets 3 times a year to discuss the curriculum of their customer experience program. It is by invitation only, so I have a call set up for 10 a.m. tomorrow to talk with program director to see if I might be a good fit. I've made no commitments at this point. Other committee members include senior executives from United Airlines, Staples, Stars, LexisNexis, Peloton, OpenText, Hunter Douglas, and Cognizant. Some of those I actually know, some of them I'm not familiar with. So I just wanted to let the board know, and if give the board an opportunity to say that they think that this is a really bad idea, that you should not participate in this. But as I said, made no commitments. I have looked at their program, and actually they contacted us about 18 months ago It appears to be a very good program. It's very interesting. 4 days. It is a little expensive. It's about, I think, $5,000 to have someone go through it, but it is also a program that they will go in and work with organizations on as well. So with that, we'll take any questions the board might have about any participation that I would have in that. Yes, sir.
Mark,
Mark.
Okay. What is the advantage to Mountain Parks Electric of you as our general manager doing that?
I think that it gives us the opportunity to see the curriculum that they are having. I am not too proud to plagiarize things from other people and look at what it is that they're teaching, ideas that they come up with, to see things that we might be able to implement here at Mountain Parks. Obviously, we have the opportunity to see if it's something that we would want to send somebody from Mountain Parks to go through that program. And I think that that's probably the biggest thing. Also have an opportunity to interact with the executives from the other advisory committee members to see things that they are doing that maybe we can take. A number of the things that we have done over the last couple of years have been programs that other people have had. We have, I think, taken them to a different level, but we get ideas from others that end up helping us to be a better organization. I'll give you an example of something that Rob talked to somebody from, I believe it was Holy Cross, Rob.
Mark, you're going to have to refresh mine. I've talked to several people.
You talked to somebody that was asking.
Oh, okay. That was Sangre de Cristo.
Sangre de Cristo. Okay. And they were calling to ask what it is that we do, because they now have an employee that was a football coach that was here and participated in the 5th quarter and went down there, and they said, you guys really need to do something like this, because this was a really great thing for the community. And so, I think people see programs at other places, and we then, take that and make it our own idea.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you.
Rob, I saw a hand up. Did you have something else you wanted to add? You need to unmute yourself, Rob.
Right. Just a clarification. I think you misspoke. It happens very rarely, but it was actually a consumer of Sangre de Cristo who was a former Middle Park High School football coach that walked into the co-op and said, hey, do you have a 5th quarter program? Why don't you? And it was kind of encouraging them, if you want to say it that way, to adopt a 5th quarter program. So my counterpart down at Sangre de Cristo called me and asked a bunch of questions about our program.
And
even better that it was one of our members that went down there.
just for Craig's information, the 5th quarter is, I don't know if you, raise your hand if you're familiar with what 5th quarter is. Okay, you know what it is. So I won't go into what it is. Justin.
Mark, is Dana Lockwood who you had talked to at the Leeds?
Yeah, well, and I've corresponded with her in email, but she'll be the one I'll be talking with tomorrow.
Okay. And I thought they were looking for somebody to be on their advisory board for their program, not pay to be part of the program. Is that?
Yeah, it is to be on the advisory committee for their program.
And you have to pay to be on that? They're not going to pay you?
I don't know. No, I don't think you have to pay to be on it.
Okay.
And maybe we'll find that out tomorrow. I don't really want to pay to be on it, and I'm not all that concerned about being paid to participate in it, but because it is just 3 days a year. But I'll find out more information tomorrow. Jeff.
Yeah, Mark, I would just, if you get the opportunity and you like what they say, I'd urge you to do it. I think it's a great opportunity. It's a win-win, for Mount Parks, potentially. We could send somebody to that if you think it's worthwhile, and second, beneficial electrification. I mean, that's, something that the school's got to be looking at, and so anyway, I'd urge you to do it if you think it's good.
Anyone else? Again, I echo what Jeff says a little bit. I think the exchange of ideas between co-ops and executives and employees only makes us stronger. So I encourage everyone to get out there and learn what they can.
Okay, and that completes the manager's report. And unless someone has a question on anything that I talked about or something that I didn't talk about. Seeing none, I move on to the safety report. You have the safety report in the packet. There were no accidents. There was one incident. It was a contractor cost outage. There was one near miss, and it related to the loading of a mini X onto a truck. And then one damage report, which had to do with the winch and truck 9, our digger derrick. The information is there. Be happy to answer any questions related to that. And then there is the other information about the safety committee and things that are ongoing.
And how about an introduction to Adam?
We were going to do that after we
Okay.
after we got the report out of the way, but I will be happy to do that. You see in the checkerboard here, Adam White. He is our new safety coordinator. He started on Monday, and the news is he came back on Tuesday. I will allow him to introduce himself, just talk a little bit about his background and where he came from. So Adam, it's yours.
Oh, thanks, Mark, and hi, everyone. Yeah, as Mark said, I've been here a couple days. First day is a little weird because, the office is closed, but here I am now, and coming from the western slope of Colorado, worked for a big chemical composite manufacturer for the last 4 years as a safety EHS guy for them. Originally from Texas. My wife and we have a couple little kids, and we've moved over to this area. We like it a lot, so looking forward to being here. I come from a lot of different industries as far as safety goes. I've been in it for a little over 12 years. Look forward to working in this industry. This is going to be different in a lot of ways, but similar things. Safety, trying to build a culture, things like that. So look forward to working with everybody, and I'll keep it short and sweet.
And for the board's information, Adam is going to be part of our admin group, which is Jessica's group with HR. And so he will report to Jessica and for things, and we will probably change where the safety report is in the agenda in future meetings. But I don't know if board has any questions for Adam.
I don't have any questions, Mark. I'd say welcome aboard, and I make a motion to accept the June safety report.
Thank you.
Second from Justin. All in favor of accepting the June safety report, please raise your hands. Right. Do people need a quick break before we go into action items? Yeah, okay. Let's come back at 9:15. All right, it looks like we have all the directors back. It's 9:15. Let's get into the action items. The first two we're going to table, but I would like to ask Mark if he wants to speak about any of the reasons why we can't move forward. I mean, we haven't heard back from CFC, or do you want to talk a little bit about the two issues that are holding those items up?
CFC loan resolution. Levi has been working with the attorneys for both CFC and CoBank. As you may recall, and for Cray's benefit, we bought out of our RUS, Rural Utility Service debt, and we did that with financing through CoBank. CoBank now has a mortgage or lien against our assets. And so with CFC, we were working to put in place a program that would allow us to have financing for our work plan, and that would require a lien as well. So CFC and CoBank need to work together to come up with a lien that makes sense and works for both of them. Levi has been sending documents back and forth. We sent, I believe, last Friday, the last set, which we believe are the finalized set, to them, just to make sure that they were good with them. We have not heard back from them, so we are tabling it. The hope is that we will have them before the end of July, so that we will be able to have the board approve the resolution at the August meeting. Policy B3, there's a section of it that we wanted to have our auditors review and make sure that they were comfortable with it. We have been having some challenges with the auditors and getting them to respond to stuff. Stacy has had a number of emails sent to them, and they have replied back that they would have it to us by a date certain. They have not met those dates at this point. So and it's not just that, we are having some challenges with a few other things with them. So we're going to have some conversation with them. And that's what we're waiting for, is their opinion that the change that we made is not going to cause a problem when they do an audit of the organization. So that's why we have suggested that we table the first two items in the discussion action items.
Okay, great. Thanks for those explanations. And let's move on to policy B14, the Mountain Parks Electric workflow procedures and work orders. Have people reviewed the policy?
And you should see in the policy in red Levi's suggested changes. And on that policy, there is a change on page 2.
Very minimal.
I'll make a motion to accept policy B4 as presented.
And make it public. Oh, we don't have to do that anymore. Sorry.
Not after last month.
Yeah, okay. Do we have a second?
So B14.
Okay. And do we have any other discussion about this policy? Craig, go ahead.
I don't have any hesitation approving this policy. I'd just like a little clarification as a new board member. it sounds like the engineering department does design work, and I assume that's for situations like in a subdivision where you have minimal design, you know, putting a meter in or an overhead line to a house or something like that. For extensive, say somebody comes in and says, I bought 40 acres or I need a new line to my ranch, you know, and it's miles or maybe a portion of a mile, but it's something above and beyond, then who designs that situation?
We do. The engineering department designs our service. So whether it is the line extension with poles and line, whether it's underground, the transformers necessary. So we design our service up to the meter, and then anything for the homeowner or business owner from the meter to their actual facility is their responsibility to design. But Scott, do you want to talk any about what the process is?
Yeah, we handle almost all of the customer jobs that we can. There are instances where when we're doing jobs to rebuild mountain parks facilities, if it's a large project or if it's a project that's a long way away from the office, it makes more sense to use a consultant. We will look into doing that as well. It's really just a matter of our workload and our abilities. And like I said, the length of the job and the distance from the office that drives the decision.
Okay, great. Thanks for that clarification.
I just had one question on, and this isn't on a change, it's just a question about the policy so I understand it better. And it says the accounting and finance department will complete the work order. This is under S, closing. A work order inventory form 219 will be scheduled to close monthly. The inspection of work order inventories will be scheduled quarterly if practical. Could you just talk about that process a little bit? Like how often are we doing that quarterly or, and it's practical? I mean, I was like, go ahead.
I can talk from my end, then I'll pass it off to Scott. So what we've done in the past is the work order accountant does reconcile internally each and every job, looking at overheads, looking at actual costs versus estimated costs. And then NASC does print a 219. The 219 gets collected and then passed off to Scott. Scott does his review. I'll let him talk to the review, but that's a monthly process that we do to get it ready for Scott. And then we also give that to the auditors annually and they review that with best practice. And even though we're not the RUS borrowers anymore, and you did the acronym RUS earlier, so I won't talk about that, but we are not RUS borrowers. We think looking at the 219 gives us a good review for the work order accountant at the end of the project because it's a nice summary. So we're continuing to do that. And then the process for Scott, I'll let him address that.
We looked at a general work order procedure after the buyout of the RUS financing. There's a lot of things involved with working with the rural utility service that were required, some hoops we had to jump through, paperwork to file, stuff like that. And so we really gave a hard look at what was in there. And we kept a lot of the procedures and things that made sense. The work order closing process being one of them, doing work order inspections on the work that our crews and our contractors perform, making sure the work was performed up to our standards and that it meets National Electric Safety Code. We still continue to do that. We're not bound by any requirement to do it, but it's good business practice. And so that's part of what we do after the work order closes and we get that list that Stacy referred to. We will go out and perform inspections. and make sure the work was constructed properly.
Great. Thanks for that clarification. So we have a motion on the floor that's been seconded. It is to approve policy B14, Mountain Parks Electric Workflow Procedures and Work Orders as amended. Or as presented, I guess I should clarify, because it was amended, but as presented. All in favor? Okay, on to policy B15, the workflow procedures and inventory.
And
So
this one you see has a few more edits. And I believe the red is Levi and the blue may have been Stacy.
Myself and Dave. Yep.
Okay. So Stacy and our then manager over the warehouse. So if there are questions, we would be happy to try and answer those. Most of the changes end up on the first page because there's not really anything on the second page.
Jeff.
Yeah, I had a question on, so the last sentence, 2A, the Kremling and Walden inventory shall not be under the supervision of the district superintendents, or shall be under the supervision of the district superintendents. Does that mean that B through G, they don't follow, or?
No, their inventory rolls up into our overall inventory. They are ultimately responsible for the materials that are stored at their facility. But Brian Stewart, who is the new manager over the warehouse, he works with them to ensure proper counts and those types of things. So they still are subject to B through F or G, but they typically are doing that in conjunction with the warehouse here in Granby.
Okay.
And just to be clear, the superintendent, there is one in Walden, and Kremling is now covered by the superintendent here in Granby.
Any other questions on these changes, this policy? What's the historical average? I'm guessing that's the pricing. Is that annual, or is it historical, or is it an accounting term? I just don't know.
Is that the historical average overall inventory?
Yeah, it says inventory items shall be valued at historical average cost, which given the price changes made me think. And then I thought, is that since the inception of the co-op, or is it?
No,
No.
It's the materials that are actually in, let's say, a category of poles. It's the historical average for the poles that are in the account at the time. And obviously, as you noted, prices have been going up. And so when the price goes up, then it changes the average.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Can I have a motion to accept this policy if there aren't any? Craig, do you have a question?
No, I think he's making the motion.
He's making the motion? Okay, we need a second. Mark, okay, we have a motion to approve the policy B15, Mountain Parks Electric Workflow Procedures and Inventory as presented. All in favor? Okay, on to the RECA. But go ahead.
Ratification of the June agenda. And the board is doing this because we made changes to the agenda inside of the 10-day requirement to post. Bryson, go ahead.
Yeah, so reviewing the agenda for this month, it would be our recommendation to table this ratification till next month, and on next month's agenda, note with a little more specificity those issues that we're ratifying. the way it was listed on this agenda was approval of June's agenda or ratification of June's agenda. You're referring to the specific emergency business items.
Actually, we were referring to 6G and H. I believe the election of the officers, which was not on the original agenda.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And we would think it would be better, it'd be our recommendation to table that and have that specifically noted on the August agenda as the items that are being ratified as opposed to the June agenda on the whole.
All right, let's table that. And also just a question on the agenda and signing the agenda waivers. We need as a board to be better at signing when we're in person, signing those agenda waivers, but I'm wondering if there's a way we can put those on Teams so that when we have virtual meetings, people can just go in and sign it.
I'll look into it, Liz.
Okay, that might make things simpler or more complicated if we have technical issues. All right, select the NRECA regional meeting delegate, which is, I believe the meeting is September 27th through 29th in Portland.
Yes.
Do we have anyone interested in going to the NRECA conference in Portland and mixing and mingling and learning from other directors and being our delegate? I know that Jeff has said, I think he's only had to go to one his whole tenure on the board. He's gone to all the CREA meetings, but skipped the NRECA meeting.
As an enticement, I might add that there are director training classes that are available at this regional meeting.
Right, I think Cray's already signed up for a lot of his classes, but any takers? Okay, I'll consider it, but I'm not willing to commit yet. And how does the board feel about us not? Do we have any concern about not sending someone?
Well, I would say, Liz, if you say you're going to go, we're going to have a motion to get you to go.
I haven't said I'm going to go yet.
Well, but you do have time since it is in this end of September. I believe that there is a possibility that the board could appoint a delegate and then we could vote without being in person. I can check on that.
That might be helpful. Okay. Go ahead, Craig.
If our board president was hinting that I should go, I looked at my calendar and I do have a CCD director's class online that would probably be right at the beginning of the travel period. So
yeah, yeah. So sometimes we can go and take classes at these national conferences. Often the Colorado Rural Electric Association, CREA, also runs the classes, and it costs Mountain Parks much less if you do the classes through them, or you can do them online, which also is an economical alternative to per diem and travel and all of that. So
yeah, and I've got one I've taken and I've signed up for, and they're all online, and that seems like a no-brainer without all the cost of travel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's look into whether or not we can vote remotely, Mark.
Okay, and we'll add this to the August agenda.
Okay. And in August, we'll have 2 more board members who might be interested. On to reports, if there's not anything else we should be talking about an action?
There is not. So Scott, you are up.
Okay, you have my report. We'll point out that we kicked off the Highway 125 project yesterday with a pre-construction meeting. They are expected to start construction August 1st. Rob, I will need to get with you. Maybe we need to get some notice out because we'll be working along Highway 125. We'll have a contractor there and they will be closing one lane of the highway as they work. So probably need to get something out to the public on that. As far as the fiber project, we have 4 overhead crews working along towards Kremling, some along Highway 40, and then somebody working along Highway 9. The Phase 1 project is still progressing. It's not moving along super fast, but they have about, I think, 26 miles to finish. So about half of the project. And at that, I will entertain questions.
Any questions for Scott? Craig, go ahead.
I was work project number 5 on the 1-hour delivery point transmission system substation class that Scott ran. I thought was really helpful, and I learned a lot, and my head was spinning at the end of the hour session, but it was really helpful. So thanks, Scott, for doing that.
You're welcome. It is a little complex in our area because there are multiple transmission providers that actually deliver power to us.
Justin.
Just a quick question on the Buffalo Creek rebuild there. We had a contractor that was the low bidder, but then there's a significant additional cost in there. I think 700,000.
We probably should discuss that in executive session because there's kind of been a change in what we're going to do with that project, and it will involve the customer at the other end. So I think we should add that to the agenda for executive session.
Thanks.
Done. Okay,
Yeah,
any other?
I kind of had the same concern as Justin to discuss that Buffalo Park deal. And then Scott, the other thing, with the recent events and flooding up on 125 mudslides, has that changed anybody's perspective on the 125 design on our buried line?
We have gone up there and looked at that, and there's a couple of things that we're probably going to make some minor changes, but overall, the project is going to be underground. And we've talked with the contractor. Sessions is the contractor that's doing the underground portion of it. They are subcontracting to Altitude, who got the bid. They're very, very familiar with the situation up on 125, being a local contractor out of Walden, and we will work with them to try to get facilities put in places where they won't be affected by the landslides and mudslides and everything else up there.
Okay, good. That was a good reminder here last week or whenever it slid that's going to continue for years to come. So it's a real timely reminder.
Yeah, it's a mess.
How hard that has to be made.
Yeah.
Okay, good job. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, just a further question on 125. What's the status of the conduit that's there? Is that being reused? Are we leaving it?
That is going to be removed.
Okay.
We will try to salvage as much of the wire as possible. There's some of the wire up there that's getting pretty beat up due to the mudslides. And so we will not be able to salvage all of it, but we will salvage as much as possible.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Scott? On to operations.
Adam.
Morning, everyone. You all have my report in front of you. A couple notes that things that have happened, I guess, since I made that report. I'm going to tag on a little bit to what Scott was saying about the Highway 125 project. We had the pre-construction / safety meeting for that yesterday. And we just tried to go over every aspect of that job and just trying to talk about, to Mark's point, the possibility of mudslides and all the different hazards that those crews are going to have up there. I think we had a real good meeting, just trying to start that out on the right foot. We have a follow-up meeting with CDOT and Jared Boyd and the contractor next week, just kind of to look at, there's several specific spots of concern up there on where the new power line is going to go. So that's a work in progress, and I feel really confident with Sessions and Altitude that we're going to get this done and get the power lines buried. So that's moving right along. I'll have an update as far as the Wolford Mountain Verizon line that I talked about last board meeting. They have cut the trees that we were concerned about for safety reasons, and that line is now cleared, and I am satisfied with the work they've done on that line. So we won't be needing to shut off their power for that. The Green Mountain Reservoir poles that we discussed last board meeting, we have not been able to get in there and straighten I think there's 3 poles. The rancher there is irrigating his field right now. So as soon as they shut off the water and cut the hay, we'll be able to get in there this fall. There's not an immediate hazard. It's just something we need to get done before winter. We also, we've promoted Chase Gaines to crew foreman in Kremling Outpost. Real excited for him and his family. And another personnel move, Jose Vargas, actually on Monday completed his final test for his apprenticeship, and he has the qualifying amount of hours. He's just basically waiting on the apprentice committee to sign off, but he'll going forward probably in the next day or two we'll get together, and I'm sure he'll be signed off to be a new journeyman lineman for Mountain Park. So that's exciting for Jose, and 4 years of hard work to make that happen. And he's going to be a great asset, and is a great asset to the line crew. And that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions for Adam? And I just say huge congratulations to Jose and Chase.
Thank you. I will pass it on.
On to finance. Stacy.
Right.
Okay, your last report.
My last report. You've all heard the big news. I have tendered my resignation with the co-op. Toby and I we don't call it a midlife crisis change, but we say a midlife adventure. We're headed to Kauai, Hawaii. We had our last son graduated high school, and we are now empty nesters and decided we wanted to just make a move over the last 6 months to someplace a little bit warmer. So thank you all. I'm leaving with excitement, but also sadness. Have a great team here. Really have enjoyed my tenure here. I'll finish out my job here with integrity and hard work, and make sure the transition is as smooth as possible, and doing everything I can to get my team up to speed, Mark up to speed with things that my team doesn't know. So I'll continue to do that. But my last day here will be August 5th. And then I'm moving to the island the next week, and then start a new job a little bit sooner than I'd originally thought, just because their CFO is leaving and I want a little bit of overlap time at the Kauai Island Utility Cooperative. So I'll be on the island of Kauai. So that's my news. My board report, just had a couple of things to add. We do have a big mismatch in the month of May with the Windy Gap pumping. Those power costs to the tune of right around $800,000 came in and show under the cost of purchase power. In June, you'll see the revenue attached to that. So that's the mismatch from May to June. So I wanted to call that out. Any questions for me on my board report?
Does that play into it all, the line loss for May?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Okay, that's what I was
Part of
thinking.
it.
How to do with that? I was like, oh, that's May. It's the line loss is
Okay.
high. It must be Windy
Yes.
Gap. Okay, thank you. And then any other questions? I have one other question, which had to do with services and the taxes on the community solar that were paid in, not the community solar, the Cyphers and Whiskey Hill arrays. Once again, those taxes were over 20 grand a piece. And,
Yep.
and I know that the bill's coming through. It doesn't come to us directly, but everything that I see, from my understanding, that's like, they should be about 30% of that if they are calculating it based on the new valuation scheme. And that they must be calculating it on the one that's 2019 or prior. And so over time, that all adds up, it's a couple hundred.
Yes, and we've reached out to CoBank numerous times and tried to get them, because they are the owner of those projects, tried to get them to address that with the taxing authority, and we have not had much success.
Well, Mark, I think the last email said they will see a change on our next tax bill, but it was more of a 5 to 10% decrease, Liz.
Yeah,
And
no,
I was disagreeing with it, with what you had seen with the state. So they said, no, there's no change on this last tax. And we got the actual tax invoices. And then they said, yes, the change will be, I think, Mark, they said 5% less. And I'm like, I was thinking it'd be 30, 40% less.
Yeah, it should be like 60% less.
Yeah.
They're just using, the assessors that are assessing it are using the old scheme to assess it rather than the current valuation process. I mean, at least that's what I can tell, and that's what I learned last summer when I looked into it. But
yeah,
I don't know, in our contract with CoBank, if we have any recourse, if we can find out what the actual amount really ought to be, and say that's what we're paying, and you guys take it up with the assessors. Because I mean, if we're losing 20 grand a year because we're overpaying taxes in 10 years, they will go down over time because the value will go down, but still that's a chunk of change that our members don't necessarily need to pay.
Yeah,
I'm saying 10 years because of our lease with them.
Our recourse, Liz, is that to require them to provide invoices of what they actually paid.
Yeah.
And which we have done. We finally got those invoices from them. We have told them that they should address it with the taxing authority, but it's up to them to do that. Now, if you recall with the sale leaseback, we have the option to purchase. And so once we do, then we will address it with the taxing authority. But unfortunately, I don't know that we have the ability to force CoBank to go to the taxing authority and say, you're doing this wrong.
Right.
Or we believe you're doing it wrong.
We think, yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I think there's some folks who are experts who could provide us with guidance on that. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? And congratulations, Stacy. And
Thank you.
I looked at Kauai Electric, and they have all sorts of distributed. It seems like maybe 1 out of 8 of their customers has an energy generator on site, and there's all sorts of batteries and small hydro projects, and they really generate a lot of their own power. And I would think it's going to be an interesting adventure for you.
Yeah, I'm excited. The more I get to know about it, the more exciting it it is going to be to work there. They're operating more like a G&T on the island, and
Yeah, I mean, they have, necessity is the mother of invention, and I think they've had to follow that.
yeah, exactly. So thank you.
Okay. Jeff, do you have something?
No, I was just gonna echo what you said, Liz, to Stacy. Stacy, thanks for everything. That's quite a cool opportunity you got ahead of you. I wish you the best. And they're lucky to get you, and we're lucky to have you as long as we did. So good luck and thanks.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Jeff. Thanks.
And I'd echo that. That's the former president's message that the new president should learn how to give. So I do appreciate everything you brought to Mountain Parks. I mean, when you came on, we were trying to figure out the automated metering system and the platforms, and it seemed like the management team really worked hard on that. And now, we continue to find the benefit from that system, and appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right. Information and technology report.
So you all have my report. I'll just provide one update to the third bullet point. Crews from Tri-State and our own crews are working currently to test and validate the new meters that we installed for the Windy Gap, both the station service circuit as well as the substation circuit across the road. We're going to initial reports are everything is good, but we're going to collect data for a period of several days to validate that further, and just test for accuracy of everything, since we are working with some pieces of equipment that are 35 to 37 years old, and we did not replace those pieces of equipment. We just replaced meters that were there on site. With that, if there's any question, I'll take those now. If not,
Justin's hand keeps showing up, but I think it's because he's adjusting his computer. Maybe.
Yep, sorry, I'm going back and forth on the iPad between the board report.
Oh, yeah, no worries.
Zoom.
Any questions for Joe? Okay, on to Jessica.
I would suggest that we move to Rob because Jessica's chair is empty, so I'm assuming she's not there.
Okay, Rob. First of all, before you even start, I want to say a huge congratulations to all the employees who worked so hard on the Granby Parade, and I'm very appreciative of their efforts and their award.
Yes, I can't take credit for that, but we had a number of employees that were part of that procession, and not just the Granby Parade, some other parades that we could not pull off without employees being there, driving the line trucks, putting together the floats. And but in the Granby Parade particularly, as far as we know, this is the first award Mountain Parks has ever won, and it was the most on-theme float. The theme for the parade was love, peace, and independence. So a little harder one to throw together without doing some shopping. But and if you saw the Granby Parade float that we had an employee actually make out of cardboard a Volkswagen van. And I heard it was 30 plus hours of work just into that one piece on our float. And we had some interesting fashion that was period appropriate for the 70s that was on our float, and a bunch of peace signs and braids and bell bottoms and all of that. So it was fun. It was good. So anyway, thanks to all the employees' hard work on that. One thing I wanted to address last month, Carl had brought up, we have an employee in my department that took part in a heat pump training. And I just wanted to clarify what that was. First of all, it was a free online heat pump installer training. And the reason that our department takes part in those kinds of trainings is we want to be as knowledgeable as we can on heat pumps so that we can answer member questions and installer questions to some degree. So just to increase our expertise in the technology to better assist our members. So that's what was going on with that heat pump training. Mark stole a lot of my thunder, but it's okay. I still like Mark. I was going to talk about the e-bike demo event and the fifth quarter events coming up. So we're pretty busy planning those, getting ready for those. Should be good events. In addition to that, upcoming on August 2nd, I think for the 5th year in a row, we will be supporting the National Night Out here in Granby. If you're unfamiliar with that, it's sort of a nationwide event that unites the community with law enforcement and its first responders, and it's a picnic and or food and games and that kind of thing. So we go up there to the Granby Soccer Dome and we grill hot dogs and hand them out to people that attend, and the local police department really appreciates that we do that. So they reach out to us every year. That'll be on August 2nd. And then we have the North Park and Middle Park fairs upcoming, and we will be having our drawing items, our online drawing items there where people can register for them, and some other things that we're looking on getting from Tri-State right now. Hopefully we're able to get them as little demo models out at the fairs. So that's the plan. Busy, really busy with events and right now, and we're blessed with work. But Raymond, our new digital communications coordinator, is doing some terrific work. You may have noticed some of that on our social media and website, and we plan to continue doing that and improving our communications so that we're reaching members in a variety of ways. And other than that, I don't have anything to add to my report as far as color commentary, but I will entertain any questions that you might come up with. Or not.
I have a question.
Sure.
And I don't know if we know why, but I noticed in your report for a number of months now, Walden is the floating array's been offline.
Yeah.
So problem on their end, I'm guessing.
I really don't have information other than we were provided an online portal that we can go in and check the production. I have not heard an explanation. I haven't had a chance to talk to Jim Dustin, who might know something about that, but I don't know if the town regularly monitors that. I know it's a performance contract situation, so I don't have any information on that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, hopefully they're looking at, hopefully someone up there knows. And your comment about the National Night Out and first responders, I had forgotten to ask and commend Adam on having the first responders at the Pole Top Rescue. I think that might be a new thing, and I think it's a great idea. So thanks, Adam.
Yeah, that was actually Jesse Peeler with CREA's idea to get them included. So I'd like to take credit for it, but it was his idea. And I think it's a great idea moving forward. Just good training with EMS and fire department and everybody to just be as prepared as we can and prepare for the worst, and hopefully it never happens.
Right. All right. Any other questions for Rob? Jessica, you're up.
Sorry, guys, out of order.
Yeah.
So you have my report. Couple things I wanted to add. We have created the separate committee called the Engagement Committee to analyze the employee engagement survey results and provide recommendations to the management team and the board. We have had 5 people volunteer so far. The deadline to apply is end of day today. So the goal is to provide the analysis for the August board meeting. We have moved forward with the new HR system I've been talking about. It's called Paylocity. Unfortunately, NISC did not offer these capabilities. We would have loved to have been able to use them for this as well. So it's intended to streamline many of our HR processes, most importantly, the performance management compensation system, to reduce the time that it takes to complete the different check-ins, evaluations, and goal reviews. So we're working on implementation now, hope to have it live in August, and we will have training for all employees on the system. And then lastly, I wanted to mention, as you all have seen in my reports, we are struggling with turnover and recruiting. The high cost of living in our area is a major barrier. While we have had issues with that for many years, obviously you all know I've talked about this since I started. Inflation has definitely exacerbated it this year. And from the latest reports, if you all saw the one yesterday, we do expect this challenge to continue. So we're having discussions with the management team for ideas on this, and we'll be looking at this in more detail when we talk about 2023 budget. Any questions?
Any questions for Jessica? All right. I'm going to suggest that we go to emergency business and then have a discussion about and then go back to, well, no, we'll go on to bills for payment, sorry, and then maybe skip to emergency action items. So bills for payment, do people have reviewed them? Any questions on the bills for payment? Going once, twice. All right. Let's move into the emergency business. I guess we'd want to have Chris wanted to be notified. Do people have thoughts about the West Grand Education Fund request? And I will point out that we just got $424,000 of of retirements that we couldn't find the homes for into the educational fund. And so I would like to talk about that, how we're going to move forward with that fund later, schedule a time at another meeting to sort of address this. But in the meantime, we have the request from West Grand. Chris, would you like to say anything about the West Grand request for funds?
I don't have a whole lot to add. I met with them a couple weeks, or with Liz. She's the new superintendent, and so she just wanted to, as part of key account work, I wanted to meet with her. I think their strategy at the moment is just to replace any fixtures or bulbs that die with LED, and this is more of a, trying to do it all in one push. So that's basically all I have for an update.
And what I will say, one of the reasons we put this on for emergency business is that they provided us with the quote they received. The quote expires on July 28th. So we wanted to make sure that if we were going to assist them with this, we gave the board the opportunity to consider it and make a decision prior to the expiration of the quote. And according to the quote, this is 31 LED lamp fixtures. And as I mentioned earlier, Tri-State does provide assistance that we, Mountain Parks, can apply for. So of the $5,114.69, they would help with about $1,700 of it. So that puts us in about the $3,400 range of what the request is. Net, we will pay the school the $5,000, but then we'll receive $1,700 back from Tri-State.
And go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, well, Justin brought this up, and I just wanted to follow up on it a little bit about the rebates. Do we know, maybe Chris knows this, but they said they got a quote from Schneider, and I'm wondering if they looked at the rebates for that, or if we know what those rebates might be for that whole package.
I'm not sure what you're referring to, Jeff.
Well, the bid or the quote that they got for the lights is actually from a company called Conservawatt.
Oh, I thought they said they got a full package quote from Schneider.
You're correct, Jeff. She said that they had, Schneider went through and looked at all the fixtures and all their properties and gave them.
I think for
And
all
then-
of their buildings, and that.
Right, it was
if you
too
look-
high.
Yeah, if you look
Yeah,
at
for
just
that.
ones for the parking lot, it's $14,000. And I think for all of their buildings to replace them with LEDs, they don't have the money, and I believe they don't believe that they could ask for that amount of money to do all their buildings.
Not even with the rebates. I mean, if just asking if we've looked at that entire package to see if that is possible to get them, full LED with our rebate structure.
Chris, when we did the warehouse and did it, I want to say that the cost for the warehouse was $9,000 or $10,000, and Tri-State provided some of that, some rebate related to that. But I think that what they're suggesting is, and Chris can check me on this, that I had also asked him if we were not able to provide this support, would they change out these bulbs or fixtures in their parking lot? And his answer was he did not think so. I don't think they have any money in their budget. And so they're doing this because it's something that's smaller and they can do. They'll possibly work towards implementing all of it into their budget for next school year.
Go ahead, Justin.
Mark, did you say the total cost was 14,000 and they're requesting 5 of it, right?
Well, the total cost that is on the quote is $14,000, but I believe that there are some of these may be in other locations, because they have highlighted on the quote that $5,114.69.
Because that's what they requested, I'd recommend that we tailor this discussion just to that amount, and then perhaps encourage them, or as a board, as a separate item, we have money in the education fund. If this is a priority for them, they could come back and ask for additional funds for a project like this. To me, it makes sense. It's especially the security lighting and the parking lot lighting that happens during our peak. It will save us money. It will provide them a more secure school grounds and better lighting. And I think encouraging them to also to make sure that a lot of those are dark sky compliant, so they're lighting where it needs to be lit and not lighting into neighbors' windows would be helpful. But let's think about this $5,100. Well, it's $3,400 request, and see if we can help them out with that. And then perhaps Chris can have further discussions.
Liz, I'd make a motion that we grant them those funds for that purpose.
Is there a second? Mark, all in favor of, all in favor, the motion is to provide funding for the West Grand School District LED security project to the tune of
$5,114.69.
Perfect. Thank you. All in favor? Okay. The next item is the Western United alternate board member selection.
If you recall, at last month's meeting, we, with the reorganization of the board leadership and then changes in some of the possibilities for opportunities for board members to serve on boards outside of ours, we elected, the board elected Mark Volt to serve as the board member to Western United, Turns out we also need an alternate because I got the form to fill it out and it requires an alternate as well.
So here's a question. Are anyone currently at this board meeting interested in being the alternate? And if not, Justin? Excellent.
Mark's the delegate, right? I can be the alternate in his absence.
Great. Can we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
How about a second? Did someone second it? Okay. All in favor of Justin Fosha being Mountain Parks Western United's alternate delegate, say aye. All right.
Bringing that up, what is the best way? Taking Dick's. I've spoken with Dick Seif on that. Getting what their agenda is. Mark, do you have their meeting schedule, or what is the best way for me to get all that and get on board with that?
You will get that when I send in the paperwork that tells them that you are our primary and Justin is the alternate, and it provides the communication to you as well. And so then they will start sending it to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions regarding Western United? Now, there's one new piece of emergency business. We had in our minutes and last meeting, we had voted to have our special meeting on August 23rd. I realized shortly thereafter that I could not attend a meeting on August 23rd. And I sent an email to everyone and asked if you guys could attend a special meeting on the 16th, August 16th, and at 10 a.m. And everyone said yes. So we need a motion to change the date for the special meeting to discuss director districts to August 16th, 2022 at 10 a.m. at the Mountain Parks headquarters, if permitted, based on COVID. Go ahead, Mark.
So moved. And I won't be, my schedule has changed a little bit. I will not be in attendance there. I will be on the river on the 16th. So, but I still move. that date works fine, and whatever you guys decide, or I'll gain that information from one of you guys. Thank you.
Well, Mark, I think what we will do is we will probably do it via Zoom, and we will record it so that you can watch it at your leisure after you've come back from the river.
Thank you.
Is there a second? Great. Okay. All in favor of having the special meeting on August 16th at 10 a.m. All right, moving along. Let's go back to board open forum and associated board reports. Let's try to push through to the executive session before we take a break, if everyone's okay with that. Jeff, do you want to talk about CREA and also your news and how that might affect Mountain Parks going forward?
All right, let's talk about CRA first. Not too much to report. You guys got the notes from the last meeting. There is a meeting in Durango the 1st of August, and it's a joint managers meeting. It looks to be really good. They're going to talk about external, internal, and operational opportunities at CREA, and also talk about our legislative strategy moving forward. So if anybody has anything they want, us to carry on to that meeting, let us know. Mark, I think Mark, you're going to be there, correct?
I am.
Okay. And that's pretty much all I have for that, unless anybody has any questions on CREA. All right, so a personal note for me, I just wanted to let you guys know that we did put our house on the market. My intention is to, finish out the year as a Mountain Parks board member. I'll just have to see how that goes. There's of course rental issues in Grand Lake. Jessica can probably talk to you about all those. So there's not a lot to rent out there, but if I get a chance to, rent something with a meter, I will do that. And you haven't quite got rid of me yet. So house is still on the market, hasn't sold. So if anybody's in the market, check it out. I talked to Liz about it. I'll let her know just as soon as if any of this changes or there's any updates for me. But that's where I'm at.
Well, and for me, Jeff has been a pillar on the board and someone calm and collected and thoughtful. But he's also been Mountain Parks rep to CREA for a long time. And with him leaving, we'll need to think about that role. It's an important role. And, as things change, we're gonna need someone to step into that. So as directors think about that, whether or not you want to get involved in that organization for, not just 6 months but for a number of years. So thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Let's see. Anyone else have any board reports? I'm guessing that Mark didn't go to a Western United meeting because there wasn't one.
No, but we did receive their preliminary financials. I did not send them to the board because they sometimes do change between preliminary and final. As soon as we get the final, I will send those financial statements out to the board.
Okay, and Carl is not here.
Liz,
yes,
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but this was going to be a question for Carl, and maybe Mark can speak to it a little bit. The bond buyback from Tri-State, Mark, I want to make sure I understand all that correct. Can you shed some light on that? Or I could call you later and we could talk about it, but
I would be happy to shed as much light as I can. Tri-State, as part of their cost reduction plan, has been actively buying back bonds just when they come up on the market. And but it typically is going to be, bonds from an individual at a time. And so what they have done, my understanding, is that they have told the broker, when Tri-State bonds come up, we want to buy them. This is a more formalized plan, and they have set aside $100 million for buybacks and of bonds, and they set a price with the market as well as a time frame, and they are going to attempt to buy back $100 million of their bonds as a way to reduce the interest costs that they pay over the remaining term of those bonds. I assume, but do not know for certain, that these are bonds that are eligible for a call provision, and that they may make it a little bit easier. Otherwise, this would be something that they would just buy back in the open market. So I believe that the letter from Dwayne said that they were going to contact all of the current bond holders to see if they were willing to sell their bonds back to Tri-State. So that's the general nature of it. If you have a specific question about it, I'll be happy to try and answer it. I don't know all of the specifics related to theirs, but I have participated in this at other entities.
They said they were going to use commercial paper to help fund the buyback.
Commercial paper is typically they have what they refer to as bullet debt, but it's basically commercial paper. It typically is shorter term than a 5, 10, 30-year bond. Commercial paper typically cannot go beyond a year, so it has a 364-day term. The rates are significantly lower normally than you would have with a 30-year or even a 5-year bond. When I participated in it in Anchorage, at the time, our 30-year bond rate was 3.378, and or 3 7/8 interest rate, and our commercial paper was at 80 basis points. So we were able to basically save 3% on the money. And over the 3 years that we used it to build the power plant, we saved $49 million. So it's a way to shift from a longer term bond to something that is shorter term. And I think he also indicated that they have seen better cash flow related to power sales and other things. So I would assume that their commercial paper would maybe the format that they would use to make the purchases, but it would be paid back within the year.
Great. And do we have any idea of, is this 1% of their bonds, 10% of their bonds?
They have a little over $3 billion of debt. I believe approximately $1 billion of that is bullet debt or commercial paper. There is some that is private placement with CFC and CoBank. And so I assume that this is possibly 10% of the third that is remaining that isn't either bullet debt or private placement.
Great, thanks. No, it sounds like a really good plan. I'd like to see that. Go ahead, Jeff.
Mark, how does the federal interest rate impact that commercial paper? Does it influence it, or?
It does, but it is tied more closely to the federal funds rate as opposed to the T-bill rates, because 1 year T-bills are at I think currently about 1.2, and then it typically is tied more closely to the federal funds rate. Now, the federal funds rate is the rate that the Federal Reserve charges member institutions to borrow from them. And so, the Fed has been raising interest rates, and those are typically going to force rates to go up. So even the federal funds rate is going to go up, but it is typically cheaper than what you would be able to go and borrow even as a large institution from a publicly held or privately held financial institution like a Wells Fargo, Bank of America, JP Morgan.
Any other questions? Or Mark about Tri-State? Since Carl isn't here. Or Mark, do you have any comments about Tri-State?
We did send out the meeting notes, and they will, I think, send out some additional things. They included in that was an update from the Government Relations Committee and one other committee, and I don't recall what that was, but that's, I think, what we know at this point. And I think that that is the focus. They obviously have had a number of discussions related to partial requirements, to the full requirement buyout, as well as Board Policy 119. So they, I think, are staying busy.
Okay. Any other board reports? I have GPAC had a Green Power Advisory Committee had a call with Chris regarding whether or not Green Power would be willing to help incentivize the build of all electric workforce or income qualified housing. And those discussions continue. As you all know, Green Power only pulls in about $37,000 a year or so. So it's not a lot of money for spurring these projects to be all electric. And the board was not sure that they have some questions about whether or not resources from outside groups and government agencies might be a more effective way to move forward. But one of the ideas was whether or not the board would be interested or comfortable with some of the funds from what we call the education fund, or I think the policy actually now calls it the community fund, having any of those funds go toward those projects, and Green Power allocating a certain amount of money back to those funds over time. And as that conversation continued, and Stacy's report noted more funds in the education community fund, I'm curious to get a read on the board whether or not, well, I guess a read on the board, just whether or not Green Power, whether you want Green Power to be acting in that space, or just to how receptive you might be to a proposal of something of that kind. And then to shift gears a little bit, reading the policy for the community and education fund, and preparing for maybe an August meeting where we really have a deeper discussion on how we feel we could spend that money to really benefit the community and get it out the door, whether it's benefit the community, benefit students, however, we have money sitting in that fund, and it can be put to good use. And so just want to throw that out there. If there's any reaction at all. Justin, I know that you feel very strongly that it be spent on students in education, and so I'm very cognizant of that. Okay, so that's a to-do list for the August meeting, is start thinking about that fund and maybe review that policy, and I'll send out a reminder. The rate design committee had a meeting. The tri-state discussed the 4 reserved issues and how they might affect rate design. There were updated models. The work continues, but towards the end of the meeting, in my opinion, it went off the rails a little bit, because the rate design committee is supposed to have this completed so that in the fall of 2023, this can be submitted to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and in January, the rate would go into effect. In May, so that's January 2024, United and Northwest Power have given their notice they want to exit Tri-State in May 2024. So it was brought up that maybe the rate should be designed without them in the mix, and it should be modeled without them in the mix. And then they decided maybe they should send them a note asking them what their intentions were. So that was sort of a disruptive scenario. They've asked United and Northwest, have said, see what we wrote and see the notice, and that's all we're going to say about it. So long and short of it is, they're going to need a rate that goes into effect January 1st, 2024. And then if those guys leave, they're going to need to submit another rate that may be different. But if they design the first rate correctly, maybe it doesn't matter. So, but we went down quite a rabbit hole on that. So that's the rate design committee. Work continues. Nothing's resolved. And Scott's description of our system helped me a lot in understanding some of the issues for transmission in the rate design committee, and related to the FERC 4 reserved issues. So thank you. Okay. Anything else? Old business.
None that I'm aware of.
New business.
None that I'm aware of.
Should we move into a Mountain Park Services meeting? Should we? Do we need to? Justin, do you have a thought on that?
I think all that we have is the minutes from our previous one that show our new elected officers.
And
that'll be-
actually, Bryson, Levi had emailed saying that we were including the minutes for those meetings at the meeting afterwards, but that it wasn't up for approval at that time. Is that correct?
So Levi had said that you are approving the minutes from the prior meeting in the next meeting, but they're not up for approval. Am I understanding your question correctly?
That the minutes would be approved the next time the Mountain Park Services met, that we were including the minutes for Mountain Park Services from the previous meeting just for informational purposes.
Yeah, that's fine.
What we did is after the last June meeting, we appointed officers for Mountain Park Services as well. And we did not have the minutes from the previous Mountain Park Services meeting included. So there was nothing to approve.
Gotcha.
June meeting, and I don't know that we have the minutes now to approve either. So perhaps we can get those minutes, put them on the call to order so that we can approve those at the August meeting, and we could have a separate Mountain Park Services meeting to approve those.
That would be the thing to do, in my opinion.
Okay, excellent. So we won't recess for a Mountain Park Services meeting. Let's take a break.
Well,
And
before you take a
let's
break,
go into go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say we maybe want to go into executive session before you take a break, then we can turn off the live stream, and after the break, come back in executive session.
Okay, so I would, if someone could make a motion to go into executive session to discuss an employee housing timeline, Winter Park land discussion, partial requirements, tuition reimbursement, personnel matters, and Buffalo Creek, the Buffalo Creek project. Could I have a motion? Thank you, Jeff. Second. All in favor? Great. Let's take